Switch 2 pre-orders went live last week, and they were a real mess. I think most of us here at IGN that wanted one managed to get one, but man, it was not easy. Let's dig in on this week's Next Gen Console Watch right after these messages. Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following everything happening with the latest gaming hardware. I'm your host, Damon Hadfield. Joining me this week are Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast Unlocked, Max Scoville, host of IGN's PlayStation podcast Beyond, and since the Nintendo Switch 2 is on the horizon, we'll be talking about it more and more. It's time to bring in Logan Plant, host of IGN's Nintendo Voice Chat podcast. Logan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Damon. Happy to be here.
So, last week, the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders went live on Wednesday, April 23rd at 9 p.m. Pacific here on the West Coast. At the designated time, people logged onto the few online retailers that were offering it, like Target, Walmart, and Best Buy. Early adopters proceeded to purchase the new console until supply was diminished and retailers politely explained they were sold out. Or at least that's how things should have gone. Instead, at 9 p.m. Pacific time, the websites crashed, or they suddenly became completely unusable and would allow people to add the Switch 2 to their carts, carry it all the way to the finish line, but then just not let them complete the purchase, or they'd put them into a queue with a spinning wheel with no indication of when they would be allowed to make a purchase. It was frustrating, to say the least. Although we here at IGN were able to commiserate together. We were all in a Slack channel, sharing updates of where we were in our process, providing tips on which retailers seemed like the best bet, and telling stories of heartbreak of how some people managed to make the purchase only to have their order canceled minutes later. So this all leads to, there has to be a better way. Logan, let's start with you. Shouldn't Nintendo try to make the process of getting a Switch 2 a little less miserable?
Yeah, that's so interesting because I think that they did try this time around. They had the way that you could sign up on their website through your Nintendo account to get an email invitation, but those invites don't go out until May 8th. And so that was kind of a fallback for people that couldn't get it from one of these retailers like Best Buy, Target, or Walmart. But then after all the pre-order debacle, Nintendo comes out and says, actually, if you signed up through us, we still might not be able to fulfill that order by launch day. Yeah. You might not even get your invitation until after the Switch 2 comes out on June 5th. So the demand for this thing is just insane. Stock permitting, it's probably going to be the biggest console launch in video game history. In Japan alone, 2.2 million people signed up to be notified for a pre-order on the My Nintendo store. And for context, the Switch 1 globally only sold about 2.7 million in its first month. So the demand is just enormous. And obviously those 2.2 million people won't all get that. Nintendo's president had to come out and say, sorry, demand is really, really high for this. So please just be patient. So yeah, I think a lot of this in the States just falls on the retailers that just seemed completely unprepared for what happened last week.
Yeah, like when, I tried on Target first. I had no luck there. Eventually I got one from Best Buy. But all three of these retailers, Walmart is the third one that was participating right there when everything went live. They had like a listing page for the Switch 2, but nothing else. And like, this is kind of a big deal in the world of retail. Like, Nintendo is one of the biggest names in entertainment. The Switch is their most successful console ever. Here's the successor. It's the Switch 2. You would think these retailers would kind of want to make an eventize it, make a big deal, put something on their homepage, have a little countdown. There's just nothing actually coming from the retailers communicating with the people that were trying to make this pre-order. It's kind of like here at IGN, we have a CMS. We can write an article, put it in the CMS, and set it to publish later. It's like that. I think they put in the listing for the Switch 2 and it's like, okay, pre-orders go live Wednesday, April 23rd, 9 p.m. Okay, and they said it and they just walked away. And when that moment came, there was like nobody like actually manning the site and like monitoring this and communicating with people.
And then Best Buy kind of forgot to flip the on switch and showed up about 30 minutes late, which was another disaster because I know so many people were relying on Best Buy as the primary source for this.
Yeah, that proved to be my saving grace because I totally struck out with everybody else. So yeah, that was a weird blessing in disguise for me. Thank you, Best Buy.
Yeah, I got mine from Best Buy as well. Max, I think you were one of the people that were sort of waiting it out, and I know a couple of us on staff bought more than one, and you might be able to find one through that. But like, what was it that kept you away? Was it the price? Was it the Switch 2?
Oh no, I tried. I definitely tried. It
just
it
was the casualties.
Everything you said. No, I felt woefully underprepared because I was like, oh, that's right, that's happening tonight. And I sat down and I like opened up, a couple tabs in my browser. And then I go on the IGN Slack and there's people like, I've got 6 phones in front of me, 2 laptops, 5 desktops. They're all ready to go. I'm just going to man this thing. And yeah, I mean, it was a debacle. It's a whole thing. That said, the one thing that I will say is the kind of the saving grace in this situation. I'm really excited for Mario Kart World, but I'm also not worried about missing out on that, if that makes any sense. Like if with Breath of the Wild, it was another story. Like that was a landmark game that I was dying to play, and I feel like that has a certain sense of wonder and magic to it that I really would have been kind of sore if I didn't have that day one and it wasn't there with everyone else. But in the case of like, I don't know, Mario Kart and a Switch 2, I have faith I'll get one eventually. I'm looking forward to it when I do, but there is no like, it feels like a much more sure thing than the Switch 1 did. But it's also it's not a sense of like a killer app. Like I don't feel like I'm going to be getting any sense of FOMO. And again, this is, so many of the games that were shown at the big sort of launch lineup reveal, a lot of them are, ports of games that came out already, or they're games that are, a few months away still. Like I'm excited about Donkey Kong Bonanza. That's good. That's going to be a few months. So, not the end of the world. Fingers crossed I'll get my hands on one. But I'm at peace with the fact that I didn't quite stick the landing there.
Well, it's the most trouble I've ever had pre-ordering a console. It made me really miss being able to do it through Amazon, because I pre-ordered the Switch 1 through Amazon and had no problems there. Of course, there wasn't quite as much demand for the Switch 1 coming off of the Wii U back then. A little bit of a different story now. But in 2020, I was able to pre-order both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X from Amazon with no problem. I think it's completely insane that Amazon doesn't sell first-party Nintendo products these days. I know there's some kind of beef between them. I don't know exactly what it is, but I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know. The other retailers just don't seem to have their act together as well as Amazon does. Ryan, what was your experience here? I know you've said that you're somewhat of a sneakerhead and that sneaker drops tend to go a little bit more smoothly than Switch 2 pre-orders did last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's with sneaker drops, you just, it's coming. Like you browse the app and it says, drop is on 7 a.m. on whatever day, and you just jump in right at that time and you try to get it, and then after a few minutes, basically it throws you into a queue, and like Nike claims they've got some magic going on to try and filter out bots. I don't know how effective or not it is. And then you either get a little screen that says, sorry you didn't get them, or got them with a little, and then you just share that on social media. And I don't understand, like it's pretty simple, it's painless, and yeah, you're not always going to get the shoe you want, because in those cases it's the supply is always limited to try and, they're always working with that sort of demand supply lever, trying to find the right balance, whereas Nintendo or any of these console makers, they want to sell just as many of these as they possibly can. So I don't know why we don't just do it that way. And I know the answer is because of retail partners, and Nintendo arguably is more still dependent on retailers than Sony or Microsoft is, where pretty much everything's going pretty digital there, other than the obvious consoles themselves. But I don't get why, like, I'm sure there's a good reason. There's relationships with these retailers, but with the launches of these things where it's just the diehards that want it, why can't the first party console manufacturers just handle the first several waves and then flood the channel with your retailers when you have stock to fulfill them? So again, I know that's an ignorant question. I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of retail, and especially at the higher channel levels, but it just continues to be, as you said at the top, Damon, a less than fun customer experience when you want it to. The whole thing is supposed to be fun. Like, yes, I'm pre-ordering the new Nintendo. We've been waiting 8 years for this, and instead, I mean, I was in the most first world way possible. Let me qualify it with that. I was just sweating bullets there at 9 p.m. Pacific because, like you said, nothing was working. Everything was just selling out. And I just thought after those first few minutes, I guess I'm not getting one. That's a bummer. And then thankfully, it turned out Best Buy didn't put theirs up till later, and I managed to sneak in there. But yeah, it just seems like retailers are, dare I say, the problem here, because I think, Damon, in our pre-production meeting, you were talking about the Steam Deck, like the way Valve handled it. That seemed like a much smoother experience. Yeah, they didn't go through retail, right? Exactly. It's not initially. Yeah, Logan, would you prefer that Nintendo? Obviously there's limited supply,
whatever, call it a million, say it's a million units. Usually when PlayStation or Xbox release a console, they put out a press release. We sold a million units in 24 hours or whatever. Let's just say it's a million units. So that initial allotment, shouldn't Nintendo just allow that to go to their most diehard, their biggest fans, sell it directly to them, and then, like Ryan was saying, the next wave can move out to retail, and all those diehard fans who have it already, they will evangelize it to more casual customers.
Yeah, I think so. And that would also go a long way in preventing reselling on eBay at triple the price. I think that the way that they did their signups was you had to have a Nintendo account for a certain amount of time with a certain amount of hours played to kind of get that verification. They just kind of did the order backwards, I think. That would have been really nice. If there was an exclusive window for pre-orders, maybe they learned that this time. Like I said at the top, I think the demand for this thing exceeded even what they've spent the last couple of years preparing for. So they know for next time, but I still think we'll see stock drops here and there in the lead up to June 5th. I don't think it's over if you're listening to this and you didn't get one. They're still popping in and out of Walmart every so often. So I still think there's a chance, but yeah, I think that it was lessons learned this time.
I think the next hardware we're expecting, there's supposed to be a third-party Xbox handheld, coming later this year. Not official, but that's what we hear. PlayStation 6 still at least a couple years off, Max. But do you think PlayStation watches this? Do they take any learnings from this? I know you can get PlayStations on Amazon.
Yeah, I would be very happy if they adopted the whole. You have a PSN account already. Like they have this data about who uses their service, and again, Nintendo has the same deal. PlayStation did this, I believe, it was the PS5 Pro 30th anniversary edition. In Japan, they did a thing where they were tracking your PSN hours logged, and they were, basically trying to, give these really cool celebratory special edition consoles to the people who had demonstrated they really care, and they're not just there to, flip them on eBay. And then I think stateside, they just didn't do that, and I don't really understand the logic there. That was I feel like we initially were like, the PS5 Pro didn't sell like gangbusters or anything. Oh, right. The special edition one did. Right. Did have a whole, kind of gold rush around it. But I don't even know what the PlayStation 6 looks like. I hope that they get it under control. But again, I remember when the PS5 launched and the Xbox Series launched, it didn't feel like this chaotic or hectic. Yeah. It felt a lot more manageable at the time.
Definitely was for me. Well, two things as we begin to wrap up. Number one, I think Nintendo should have its own solution for selling hardware direct to consumers right when pre-orders go live for everyone. And retailers need to prepare for these big hardware launches. They need to eventize them and communicate with their customers about it. But switching gears for this week's poll, with the start of May, we are officially 1/3 of the way into 2025. We usually do Game of the Year Watch quarterly, but we can do it thirdly too. So to that end, we want to know, what's your Game of the Year so far? I think the kind of front runners are now Claire Obscure, Expedition 33, Split Fiction, Blueprints, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, or Monster Hunter Wilds. Make sure to vote at IGN.com the day this episode goes live. We'll share the results with you next episode, just like we can with our last poll. We were talking about other games that deserve a really nice remaster treatment like Oblivion just received. So besides Bloodborne, we wanted to know which of these games would you most like to see given the Oblivion remaster treatment. And Ryan, I've got good news and bad news. Coming in at number one was Fallout 3 with just about 36% of the vote. But coming in last place was Burnout 3. Not a lot of demand for a Burnout 3 remaster out there.
I'll buy it if EA makes it.
I would buy 2 copies if EA would remaster Burnout 3. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves. Doom: The Dark Ages is coming. Get prepared with the id and Friends Humble Bundle, which gets you a pile of great games for just $28, including Doom Eternal, Doom Eternal's Year 1 Pass, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, Doom 2016, Doom and Doom 2, Wolfenstein: The New Order, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, Doom 3, Doom 64, and you'll get 10% off Doom: The Dark Ages. As always, your donation goes to a good cause. You can get in on this deal at humblebundle.com. Now, IGN Live is coming to downtown Los Angeles on June 7th and 8th. Come hang out with us for an exciting live show all weekend while we record live tapings of all our shows, interview awesome people in the games industry, celebrities in entertainment, and much more. We're also giving away tons of prizes. Seriously, we have so many, and we'll have playable gaming stations, arcades, and photo ops all over the show floor. You can expect to see 2K Sports, Netflix, Arcade 1-Up, and many others make an appearance. Head over to IGN.com/live, or if you're watching this video, scan this QR code on screen to grab your tickets. What a time to be alive. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you to everyone working behind the scenes to make this episode possible. We will be back next week with more on the latest gaming hardware news, and we'll see you then. This episode of Next Gen Console Watch was produced by myself, Damon Hatfield, and Jobert Atienza. Technical direction is by Jobert Atienza, with technical production by Marian Franzen and Amir Rakib. Audio engineering is handled by Amir Rakib. Post-production editing is by Jobert Atienza, and graphic design is by Justin Vachon. Next Gen Console Watch is an IGN production and part of the Geek Media Network.